And thank you for your patience. The time is 5:50 p.m. I would like to call our work session to order. Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Daniels? Here. Ms. Davis?
Present.
Ms. Green?
Present.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Rawls?
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Present.
Ms. Bowers?
Present, thank you. We have two resolutions this evening in two different committees for discussion. We will begin with the Community and Economic Development Committee. I will defer to our Community and Economic Development Committee Chair, Chair Daniels, who is joining us virtually.
Sorry, thank you. Mr. Truesdale, do you mind reading the resolution 16-2025 into the record, please?
Resolution 16, 2025. A resolution approving the preliminary/final land development plan for 1103 South Front Street submitted by Eden Villages of Harrisburg to construct a transitional housing development for homeless individuals featuring 32 individual tiny homes, a 2,400 square foot community center offering services for residents and associated site and access improvements.
Thank you. And is there someone from the administration to give us a little background on this project and where it is process-wise?
Yes, Jeffrey Knight, Planning Director for the city. Good afternoon, council members. So the application here before you today, as Mr. Truesdale read, is for 1103 South Front Street. It is the Eden Village project. It's a 30 permanent housing development with 32 individual tiny homes, a 2,400 square foot community center, offering services for the future residents and associated site and access improvements. This proposal is the third of a three-phase development for the large parcel just south of the PennDOT facility on South Front Street. The first was the VOPA facility, which has already been constructed and I believe is occupied. The second phase was the Tunnels to Towers project, which is a similar homeless veterans housing project of 84 units, and that was recently approved for the site just to the north of this current proposal. And then this development is the final piece, which is in between the VOPA facility and the Tunnels to Towers property, and will be actually serving a different population than either of those two. As noted, those two different projects were focused on homeless veterans. This project is focused on the general homeless population in the city of Harrisburg. The project did receive approval from the Zoning Hearing Board for the required zoning relief requests at their October 21st, 2024 meeting. And as such, the applicants do have all the required zoning approvals necessary for the project to go forward, and thus the tonight's meeting is the final step in their approval process before a final vote by council at a future legislative session. With all of that being said, the Planning Commission recommended by unanimous vote that City Council approve the request with the following conditions. The applicant should ensure that the tiny homes will be ADA compliant via zero-step entries, and that the community center will likewise have ADA access to ensure that they are able to accommodate as much of the population as possible. The proposed access ramps, which were presented by the applicants and discussed at the Planning Commission meeting, do satisfy this condition and should be installed between two units so the access can be shared. And just to clarify that condition a little bit, the tiny home units themselves changed a little bit from the first iteration of this project, and I'm sure the applicants will describe this in a little bit, but they'll have to be sitting up, so they have kind of a small crawl space underneath, which was not part of the original plan. So they'll have these small ramps that will allow access up until the front porch area, which will then have a zero-step entry into the building itself. And so having a ramp shared between two units that are side by side will reduce the number of ramps that they have to put in. The applicant must install landscape screening or an opaque fence along the western side of the proposed parking areas to prevent headlight spillover into residential units. The Planning Bureau recommends the applicant continue coordination with the city arborist regarding required landscape screening and trees and retention of existing mature trees and the installation of native plants and pollinator plants in landscaped areas throughout the site and more specifically around the proposed stormwater retention basins. And that's something I believe the applicants are working with the city arborist on, so they'll be in conformance with that condition. The Planning Bureau is recommending the applicant install required bike parking near the main entrance of the community center, as opposed to kind of offset to the side of the building as proposed, and that it be sheltered for the benefit of staff and volunteers. Residents of the tiny homes can store their bikes in their units. The applicant should coordinate with the owner of the property to the north of the site to secure easement agreements for access through their site and provide such documentation to the Planning Bureau. And while VOPA has already granted easement access for both this applicant and Tunnels to Towers, because the ownership of the property to the north will be changing to Tunnels to Towers and not VOPA, we just want to make sure everything's clear for potential future owners of this site or in case we get requests from anybody. And finally, approval of the project and associated waivers will not preempt any waivers which fall under the purview of agencies outside the city. And this is just relating to, I believe there were some requests for relief from waivers from some of the subdivision and land development ordinance that address stormwater management. That ordinance dates back to 1988, so it's not necessarily representative of our current configuration where we have CRW as a separate authority which manages those. So we just wanted to make sure that approval by council would not preempt the review authority that any outside agency would have as part of this. The Planning Commission recommends City Council approve the request for the following reasons. The applicants have received approval from the Zoning Hearing Board for the various relief requests needed to effectuate the project as proposed. The proposed project will meet a critical need, housing for homeless individuals, will provide units with full bathroom and kitchen facilities that improve their standard of living, and will further development of a housing typology that has been proposed and completed for other sites in the immediate area. The project proposes a continuation of recent development projects in this area intended to provide accommodations and services for those experiencing homelessness. And finally, if the recommended conditions of approval are adopted, the proposed project will provide improvements that will benefit residents, including better bicycle infrastructure and increased vegetation and ecological biodiversity. And with that, that is the Planning Bureau's case report and resolution. I believe the applicants will be introducing themselves and giving a little bit of a background presentation on the project.
Thank you. Is the applicant present and able to give us a brief description of the project and give us a time frame of beginning and completion?
Yes, we are present, and we have our engineering firm who can give you all the details. But I wanted to give you a little bit of the background. My name is Robert Lawson. I was at, is it not?
Excuse me, I don't think so. Can you move it?
Okay.
Thanks.
How about now? Can you? All right, great. My name is Robert Lawson, and at one time I used to sit up there with you, but right now I'm here representing Eden Village. Basically, I've been working with the unhoused community. There's the microphone. I've been working with the in-house community for probably the last 15 years. Much easier. Thank you. Now I know I'm going because I can hear it. But I've been working with the unhoused community for the last 15 years, and what we've been seeing is that it's not a easy issue to fix. I know that council in the city have dealt with this problem for many years. And I won't say that this is the overall solution, but this is going to be a nice help. What we need to do for most people, they need services. They need, they need mental health help. They need addiction help. But most importantly, they need housing. If we can get them into a house, we can work on everything else. So if we start with the house and get a home that's affordable and that's safe, we can help take care of all those other issues, and we can affect the quality of life issues that are affecting our unhoused population and the quality of life issues issues that are affecting others who are living around the areas where people congregate. They say that you can look at a city and see where their priorities are by how the most vulnerable are treated. So I'm asking council to help us show that Harrisburg is a loving, compassionate city by helping the people that are the most vulnerable around us. I can't give you all the details of this because I'm not the engineer, but we have a gentleman right here who has done the hard work and can let you know how this is going to be safe, affordable, and also up to code. Let's go. We have a video as well that can at least give you a little bit of a background of what we've gone into our thought process for why we decided that this would be an endeavor worth taking.
Eden Village is a tiny home gated community that's going to provide permanent housing to our unhoused friends in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Homelessness is an issue in the backwoods to the biggest cities. It is there, it exists.
Somewhere around, as of 2022, 400 people in Harrisburg City are experiencing homelessness. With the pandemic and everything, those numbers have increased nationwide dramatically.
We need to increase awareness, one, of the problem of homelessness in the Harrisburg region, and then two, that we have solutions to help overcome it.
The idea of Eden Village came from a real estate article that a friend of ours, John, one of the original founders, brought to a small group that was interested in just loving our community.
And so we just started to ask questions around housing. How do we maybe look at housing as a way to serve our community?
People have nothing, some people, and they just need hope back to be able to see that they can have everything that God has for them.
As we started our journey and we're working and trying to serve our unhoused friends, we were trying to serve them with basic things like food and supplies and coats and clothes and blankets. And just over time, we realized they needed more than that. They needed homes. And one day when we were out serving them, it came ever so clear. We came across an unhoused friends that were looking at some of the supplies that were available, and they said, we don't need any of these things. And really, God really spoke to our hearts in that moment and was like, they need housing.
The ones that the Lord cares about the most are the marginalized, and the ones that people are like, you're no good, or they've had everything taken from them.
The underlying problem of homelessness is the catastrophic loss of family, of the family system.
Any one of us can be homeless. Any one of us, once we realize the actual definition of homelessness, we know someone close to us that is experiencing that. Living in their car, living with family, just couch to couch, that's a homeless person.
We walk from our car to our house and we complain that we can hardly stand how cold it is. And if you had to spend numerous nights outside, it's just hard to believe. And so any little thing that we can do to help, even one person's life change for the better it's worth what little sacrifice we're really doing.
I think we need two things. Where we're at right now, we need people who connect with this that have financial resources to be able to give right now. We're looking for those people, but we're also looking for people that will partner with the organization long term.
What are your talents? What are your gifts? And talk to us about how you can use them to help the people that need it the most.
It's a dream until we get the funds, and then it becomes real, it becomes tangible. As we take ownership of the land, as we build the homes, and we build the infrastructure for the homes, we need money to make sure that happens.
The total project is going to be $3.5 to $4 million. It's really going to take a community to build a community. We often like to imagine a Harrisburg where no one sleeps outside. And imagination's good, but it's going to take action to make that happen.
We don't have the village yet, but we know that God wants the village, so He's going to bring the community together to make it happen.
Eden Village is hope. Eden Village is an opportunity for someone to start over. Eden Village is an opportunity for them to be who God made them to be.
you so much for listening to that. My name is Josh Wilder with BL Companies. I'm the engineer for the project, so we'll get into the nitty gritty after that. So I have the plan before you here. I just wanted to go over it real quick. So the access drive comes in from across the PennDOT building. That's South Front Street Extension. That's the dark gray road coming in there. And basically right after where the, it's kind of a, not bump, but a turn in the road where it kind of rises up. So beyond that, we have our access point. It's going to kind of drop down into a parking lot. We don't have the parking spaces for all residents. The anticipation is that parking lot is going to be more for people coming to help out. And then we have a community center where those workers and volunteers will be. And then you can see kind of a loop road. It's a relatively narrow, 12-foot wide, so it's there for walkability for the residents, but also is wide enough to provide that emergency access around the loop. And then also the utilities, water and sewer, also are in that loop road. We also have access on the Susquehanna River side. That's more of a gravel road, so it's a maintenance access, and that also will act as an emergency access as well. You can see the community center itself is also on the side there. It's a one-story building, 2,400 square feet. Again, there'll be the laundry facilities in there, community rooms, and individual counseling rooms as well. From a river standpoint and flood standpoint, just wanted to bring up, so the floodplain of the Susquehanna River comes up right to where about the dark green line is there.
Excuse me 1 second. Don't mean to interrupt you. Can you please speak into the microphone? I don't know if you need to take it off to access the rendering. Thank you.
Yeah, so just pointing that out, the dark green line there at the Susquehanna River is the kind of point where the 100-year floodplain is. So where the site is actually getting built is not in the 100-year floodplain. And so that's kind of a brief description of the site. I guess I did want to bring up just a couple items.
So I can't hear anything at all right now.
Sorry about that. I did want to bring up a couple items from the resolution as was read in. So one, and Jeffrey had mentioned this, but it's not written in the draft. It states that item number 2 on page 4 from the Harrisburg Planning Commission, it doesn't specify about the or opaque screening for the headlight spillover into residential units. So where we're talking about there is the Planning Commission suggested that tree plantings or other blockages occur between the parking lot and the residences in their backyards. So we agree that there should be something done there, and we wanted to clarify there was opaque fencing could be used. So just wanted to clarify that in the record so that it gets written into there. And then the other item I just wanted to bring up, so again, as Jeffrey had mentioned, the sites are originally shown on a pad where it would be easy to kind of get that access level for ADA accessibility. Found out that it was much less expensive to be able to kind of bring these units in pre-built and set them on a kind of crawl space, which sets them about 1.5 feet above grade. And so we were hoping, while the interior of the sites are all, interior of the buildings are all ADA accessible, the community center itself is completely ADA accessible. We were hoping that we could provide the ADA accessibility for the exterior units where needed, where individuals would come in and have that ADA accessibility need. Since they're individual residential units, there's not a requirement that they be ADA accessible. And so I think the other thing to bring up for Eden Village is we are looking at long-term housing for these folks. So unlike, I think, VOPA and Tunnels to Towers site, where you're looking at 2 years max for housing, this is actually more like permanent housing. It can be a long-term situation. And so we don't want to build, every dollar counts when you're building this, and we don't want to have to build 32 handicap ramps when only 3 or 4 people maybe need that accessibility. So would just ask, that would be item 1 from the Harrisburg Planning Commission resolution on page 3. I'd like the council to consider adjusting that to what I'd mentioned, which was provide the exterior handicapped accessibility only where the individuals need that at the residence. I guess that's all I really have. Welcome any questions from council.
Okay, so if you don't mind repeating your objection to number 2, I guess that's the period where you kind of where the volume
Sure,
was.
yeah, absolutely. So, and it's not really an objection. Jeffrey stated what was decided at the planning commission meeting, that opaque fencing could be used instead of landscaping. And it's just not written into the draft resolution. So just wanted to clarify that.
If I may, Madam Chair, if you notice, your last exhibit has a placeholder, which is the placeholder is the final minutes of the planning commission, and that will have that same information that came from the planning commission reflected that was just discussed. So that they get swapped out when they get down sort of in this order of events.
And I guess regarding that, I guess our understanding from the planning commission meeting was that the planning commission was amenable to the handicap ramps where needed. It didn't sound like you were saying that, Jeffrey, so I guess I wanted to clarify that.
No, that is correct.
Okay, great.
So the provision 2 requires landscape screening. Mr. Knight, you're saying that the planning commission agreed to opaque screening. So on that point, my question is just a simple stormwater question. Like, is the impact de minimis between the two, the difference between the two when it comes to stormwater?
Yes, I would say it is.
Could you repeat that?
Yes, I would say that it is a de minimis difference.
Okay, so then it's just a question of like aesthetics mainly?
Primarily, yes. The primary reason for the screening is to prevent, again, headlight spillover into adjacent residences, whether it's, this project or any sort of residence in the city. But a opaque fence would have the same impact. So that's why the Planning Commission authorized that as an alternative.
Okay, thank you. And then for number 1, I wasn't clear on what the objection was. What language would you like to switch out? This is to the applicant.
Yeah, I guess, one, I wanted to make sure, Jeffrey, maybe I was wrong so did the planning commission agree to the, individual lots for ADA accessibility as required?
They did, I think, and that was in the formal resolution. I think to Neil's point, the resolution that council has was dependent upon being infilled by the discussion at the planning commission meeting. So yes, that is correct that they did authorize the use of the ramps.
Okay, so if we're using then the, final decision of the Harrisburg Planning Commission, then we would find that acceptable. I don't think we need to, work out individual writings at this point then.
Thank you all. So I'll go ahead and open up the questions to council members. I'll start to the far left with Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Councilwoman Daniels. I really don't have much to say. I have excuse me, I will say that this is a great project. And as Mr. Lawson said, I think this helps with some of the unhoused individual in our city. I think this is a great idea. I hope we can do some more at some point to help some of the individuals. I know you talked about the number of unhoused residents being around 400, but we have some youth close to that number as well, so that's an issue. But thank you for God putting these things in you guys' heart to do something like this. This is very much needed, not only in our city and other places, but I'm glad that this project is going to be able to come to fruition, not only for you, but to some of those other individuals that are unhoused. Now, some of my questions will be just for public reference. Safety, how's the lighting going to be outside? Are there cameras? Can you tell how you're going to keep those individuals safe and the community itself?
My name's Kari Lane. I've with Eden Village.
You might want to pull that a little closer or grab that microphone.
Curry Lane with Eden Village. Pleasure to be here. We will have parking lot lighting on the facility. The facility is going to be fenced in with biometrics to get in and get out. We will have cameras and security there also.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Thank you, Councilwoman Daniels.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions were geared towards the safety and lighting as well. Seems like a great project. I just echoing the sentiments of Councilman Jones, and great job, everyone. No further sentiments. Thank you.
Councilwoman Rawls.
Thank you, Councilwoman Daniels. Good evening to you all. Thank you for being here. I love the project. This is one of our most vulnerable populations. So to give them housing, that is, like you said, that's step one, right? I can't help you get better if you don't have a place where I can get to you at, where I can service you. So this idea is great. It's going to be very helpful. So I just, want to thank you for bringing this project to the city. I don't have a lot of questions, just mainly two. When I was reading the resolution, I saw it said that with respect to MBE and WBE and DBE participation, that you at this time have none planned. So I was just wondering, how will that change? How are you looking to involve businesses that are disadvantaged?
The microphone kind of started to become muffled.
Is it still muffled? Can you hear me?
Let's say something. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you hear my question? Do you want me to repeat it?
I'll guess it from the answer.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Yes, that was my question.
We're currently working with all different agencies and businesses and medical facilities to build our partners. We just had meetings last week with UPMC, and we're in steady communication with different organizations.
Okay, so you are working on including those. Okay, I just saw that it was alarming, or it was a question to ask just to see how that was going to change with, because that's a big thing within our community is that type of participation. We get left out a lot. So, just in Harrisburg residents, and building these projects. So thank you for answering that. My other question was, when it's single occupancy, right? So when choosing who's gonna occupy these houses, I do know one thing, Harrisburg is a safe haven for a lot of people. They know we treat our unhoused population very well. And I wanna see anyone who is ready for housing to get it, but how do we make sure, I would say, our unhoused population that has been in Harrisburg for a while, who is looking for this opportunity, gets it before, someone who's just now coming to the city because it's a safe haven. How does that selection process go, or what are you thinking that will go to make sure we get those residents first that have been here waiting?
That's a great question. It's going to be an application process, so we'll be able to interview, understand their background. And as Rob said, many of us are working in the city right now, helping out. So we've seen the faces, we know the people. Okay. We'll be working with other agencies like VOPA or Bethesda Mission, things like that. So through that application process.
Okay, thank you. That was my one big concern. So thank you. That's all I have, Councilwoman Daniels.
Okay, thank you. President Bauer.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Thank you for your presentation and the video this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Green.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here tonight. And thank you for this project to begin with, because this is a population that often it doesn't go overlooked, but sometimes people just want to use the simplest solutions, which doesn't really lead people out of the situation. I don't have many questions. One is, what are the qualifications for the residents? Like if someone is interested in becoming a resident of Eden Village, are there qualifications they must meet? Is there an income requirement? Like what are the requirements for them to become a resident?
Another great question. There's two basic requirements. One, they have to pay $300 a month in rent. And two, they got to follow the law. We're housing first. And we believe once a person gets a housing, they can work on themselves with some of the programs that we will offer there.
Thank you very much. I think that's the only question I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davis?
Thank you, Councilwoman Daniels. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this evening. This is a great project to add along with all of the other housing programs that we have in the city. It's definitely nice to see that you're working with all the other agencies as well. So I wanted to ask the question about the opaque fence you mentioned to prevent the lighting from going over into the other neighborhoods. How tall will that fence be? Just curious to know how you're gonna prevent that.
So the intent is to have a 6-foot-high fence, and then it will be opaque, certainly within the area along the parking lot is the intent.
Okay.
We don't have an actual design yet for that, what it would look like, but it will be opaque, so. yeah.
Okay. And also, in the facility, are you planning on hiring, you talked about providing medical and mental health. Will you have doctors actually on site, or will they be coming in, or mental health
They'll be coming
counselors?
in.
Okay.
We'll give them space in the community center for those opportunities.
Nice. And then you mentioned $300 a month?
Yes.
Is that what the residents will have to pay?
That's what they'll have to pay, utilities included.
Okay. So if they're homeless, they don't have a job, you're planning on helping them to get jobs? Is that how that works?
A lot of the unhoused population, they do get some type of a check.
Oh,
just
okay.
not enough to survive, $600, $900, $1,000. And we will be helping them with life skills, get jobs to continue to grow.
Okay, great. But initially, some of them may not have, the money to pay, but, as long as they're getting the life skills and the support they need, that's great, that they'll eventually be able to pay $300 a month. Is that required right up front, as soon as they walk in the door, or?
To be able to pay the rent is one of the qualifications to be able to.
Okay, so as soon as they come in, they have to pay $300 a month. They're homeless, but they come in.
That's correct.
And they pay $300, okay. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how, some of them will be able to afford that. I know some of the veterans who are homeless are getting checks, but some of the other homeless.
With disability and Social Security and.
Okay. I didn't realize that, many of them were getting benefits.
And there's other programs in Harrisburg where they offer vouchers and different things.
Is there a security deposit to live there? Like, they come in, they pay $300, do they have to pay a security deposit, or?
At this time, there's no security deposit for them to put down.
Oh, okay. I'm just imagining now, you're providing a service, you're a landlord here now for them, so they're coming in, it's $300 a month. Is there, first month's rent, last month's rent, security deposit, or it's just a flat $300 a month, and
that's right.
That's where they go? Okay.
Yeah.
Those are my only questions. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Councilwoman Daniels, I do have one additional question, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Transportation. We didn't talk about that. What about if they need to go get services? Are you guys going to provide transportation?
Yeah, that's a great question. As we were looking to secure land, one of the key points was transportation, to be close to a bus stop. So as you know, the bus stop runs right over there by PennDOT.
So you'll be able to connect them to services, because there are services that provide transportation, bus passes.
That's correct.
Thank you. That's it. That was my final question, Councilwoman Daniels.
Thank you. So, Lavia, again, going back to provisions 1 and 2, do they need amendment during the legislative session, or?
So I believe both the applicant and the city representative and the law bureau have all represented that those were the conditions agreed by the planning commission, and the final exhibit, which has a placeholder, will be the final minutes of the Planning Commission. And if what's in the motion that it's approved consistent with the minutes coming from the Planning Commission, that should satisfy it. If for any reason those minutes are different, but I'll note Jeffrey writes them, they're going to be the same. That should be sufficient for the public record in terms of keeping the project moving forward.
Okay.
With the conditions discussed tonight.
Okay, thank you. I guess does anyone have any last minute questions? Okay, so I guess that concludes the business of the Community and Economic Development Committee. I would recommend that we place Resolution 16, 2025 on the legislative agenda, on the next legislative agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next committee business that we have this evening lies with the Parks, Recreation, and Enrichment Committee. I will defer to our Parks, Recreation, and Enrichment Committee Chair, Chair Rawls.
Thank you, President Bowers. Mr. Truesdale, can you please read Resolution 15 of 2025?
Resolution 15, 2025, a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Community Conservation Partnership Program, Non-Motorized Trail Grant Program in conjunction with the Capital Area Greenbelt Association for up to $150,000 for funds to relocate a portion of the Capital Area Greenbelt in South Harrisburg.
Thank you, Mr. Truesdale. Is there anybody here from the administration who can give us more details on Resolution 15?
Good evening, Council. My name is David Baker. I'm the Facilities Director for the City of Harrisburg. We also have Deborah Rehart, who is the project manager that oversees this on the city's behalf. We also have volunteers from the Greenbelt or CAGA volunteers, and I believe Doug Hill will be doing the lion's share of all the representation of this grant ask tonight.
Thank you. So whoever would like to go first.
So Doug, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Please state your name for us and who you are representing tonight.
Thank you. I'm Douglas Hill, and I am president of the Capital Area Greenbelt Association. I live at 709 Green Street here in the city. And we appreciate the council, the committee rather, taking up this resolution tonight. This is part of a much larger project for relocation and reconnection of the Greenbelt in South Harrisburg. It's fitting that we would be on the agenda right after Eden Village, because that is part of the reason that is prompting this relocation. We have a handout for you. The sheet I have, though, on the chart is a little bit different. This shows the historic route of the Greenbelt through the South Harrisburg area. And what you see are two pieces right here. The first went through what is now VOPA. This part goes through what will be Tunnel to Towers, and then also, as you just approved, Eden Village. And so because of those developments and the fact that they're private property and we could not find a way to make the trail compatible with those developments, we are obliged to move the trail to a different location. I'll also acknowledge the owner of the property, who was very graciously allowed us use of that property for 30 years of the Greenbelt's history. Again, it's just not compatible use right now, and that's prompting the relocation. The two sheets I gave you, the two drawings I gave you, illustrate the route that we're working on for relocation in South Harrisburg. And very simply, instead of coming down and going past the PennDOT building into the prior properties, we'll take a short crossing of Front Street just above Sycamore. We'll travel along Sycamore to the other side of the railroad bridge, and then we will work through either the Pensy property or the Cumulus Towers property and go down to reconnect with city property just above Chenoy Street. And so that will be our reconnection. We have completed an engineering feasibility study that shows that this is compatible with the roadway, with the use, with the traffic volumes, and that it can be accomplished reasonably. The trail will actually run along the sidewalk here. And we will be widening the sidewalk to make it safe for cycling traffic as well as pedestrians. And then we'll be completely off the roadway once it connects through these properties down here. Because we are still in discussion with the landowners here, we do not yet have a connection to be made. And so we've divided the project into two phases. And so phase one will be this part from Front Street, just up Sycamore, to about the entrance of the Pensy driveway. Phase two then will be whichever of these two alternatives we work out for the reconnection down here. Last November, you were kind enough to sponsor a grant for us with DCED for an LSA grant for an application for $1 million, which would be the primary funding for phase one. What's in front of you tonight is an additional $150,000 to DCNR for Trails grant, which will also augment the funding for phase one. The remainder of the funding, this is an estimate of about $1.2 million altogether for this section. The remainder will come from CAGA funds and funds that we've independently raised from foundations and others. The other side is the closer detailed view of how phase one will be arrayed. So you see the walkway and the terminus there at the Pensy Supply. So I will be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your presentation, Mr. Hill. I don't have any questions. You gave me a very detailed response. I'm glad to see we're working on how we're going to relocate a portion of the Greenbelt. You and I did speak earlier, and you did say that this portion being reconstructed or relocated, because it's going through DCNR, you do have to get some type of resident buy-in. I know there's not that many houses around that area. However, the ones that are, I know you did say you would be getting their approval or buy-in to it. My second question, I do actually have one. Do you have to, there's not that many businesses either, but do you also have to contact the businesses and get their approval?
We've already done that.
Okay.
And so really the only business is Dauphin County General Authority right here. We just got an endorsement letter from them today for the project. Other than that, this is currently Phoenix Associates property. I think may ultimately become PennDOT property as a part of the reconstruction of 83, so that's not an issue. To the north on Front Street is Shipoke. We anticipate getting a letter tomorrow in support from them. And then the only other property owners are Pensy Supply and Cumulus. And as I said, we're already in negotiation with Pensy Supply because that's our preferred alternate route. But I think your point is a good one. First, the grant application does require a community participation provision, and so we have written that into the grant. And the thing that we're particularly mindful of is that the Greenbelt is an asset for the entire community, and so that's not just the immediately adjacent property owners and developments, but that's everyone on down Cameron Street, on up in the hill, out behind Cloverly Terrace and all the rest. And so we are going to be making a broad outreach so people understand we're trying to reconnect the trail that they rely on to get the businesses, to get to the riverfront and other destinations.
I agree. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. I'm going to start here down to my far right with Councilwoman Daniels. Do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Davis, do you have any questions?
Oh, thank you, Councilwoman Rawls. Good evening. Thank you for being here. Are there going to be new bike trails up along Sycamore Street?
So what the design on Sycamore Street, instead of the trail as it historically went down past the PennDOT building, will cross Front Street just before Sycamore, and then from this point on, we'll be widening the sidewalk along Sycamore Street. So currently it's 5 feet. We'll widen it to about 10 feet, which will make it a suitable width for cycle traffic in addition to pedestrian traffic. And if you're familiar with the Greenbelt up in the area of Linglestown Road, where we head toward Fort Hunter, we similarly widen the sidewalk there in the neighborhood of the McDonald's. So if you want to see it live and in person, this is how it would look.
I have seen that. Thank you. And does this affect the school in any way? I mean, going up past 13th Street on Sycamore?
No, because we actually do not cross Cameron. We actually turn off of Cameron, or we turn off before Cameron. Cameron's up here. We turn off before the railroad overpass, and we go behind the railroad and back down to Chenoy Street.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Green, do you have any questions?
Thank you for being here tonight. I don't have any questions for you.
Thank you.
All right, President Bowers, do you have any questions?
Good evening. Just maybe it's a premature question, excuse me, but I was just curious about the community participation and community outreach. Do you have a plan, and what are you considering in communicating with any residents that might be impacted?
Well, we'll be doing the usual social media outreach and things like that, but then we also have contact information for community groups in the neighborhoods that are adjacent to the trail. We reach out directly to them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Rodriguez, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just relieving to see that some of the funds are being earmarked and through grants and other processes. I know when we first discussed it, when the towers came up, it was a little uncertain, and that was a big part of the discussion, but I'm glad to see that Director Baker and the rest of the team is on it. I just look forward to see how this would manifest through phase one, and I wish you all the best. If council can help in any way, I'm sure I speak for my colleagues. We would love to assist with some of the community buy-in and see if if there's anyone you need us to reach out to and try to make this great for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. And Councilman Jones, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Councilwoman Rawls. No questions.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more questions either, so I'm recommending that Resolution 15 of 2025 be placed on our next legislative agenda. And that concludes the business of the Parks, Recreation, and Enrichment Program. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move forward with our meeting agenda. Next, we have public comment. Just a few housekeeping notes before we begin. If you could please state your name and your address for the meeting record. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your address, please share the vicinity in which you live within the city. You will have 4 minutes to share your comments. Mr. Truesdale will serve as our timekeeper. I'll begin to my right. Is there anyone that would like to offer public comment? Seeing and hearing no one, anyone in the middle section?
My name is Peggy Grove, and I'm the owner, or was the owner, they're all in different stages, of all the 3 projects that you have approved for South Harrisburg. This has been a vision of mine for many, many years, and now we are going to be providing housing for people who absolutely need it. And I've also, just behind the scenes, have told the Greenbelt Association that I will help in any way I can with that also, because it's been difficult for them to try and come up with another place, and we all did the planning behind that to try and come up with another plan for them. So anyway, I wanted to take a moment just to thank you for your patience and for your diligence in getting this passed. And I used to sit up here also.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the middle section that would like to offer public comment?
Yes, my name is John Trainer, and excuse me, John Trainer, and I'm here representing HMAC, Harrisburg Midtown Arts Center. I'm here to speak to Resolution 20, I believe the noise ordinance exemption. Why I came today is I believe that the noise ordinance map is not correct, because the map in 2002, when the first ordinance was passed, was for Second Street. In 2014, there was an amendment to include Third Street, Harrisburg Midtown Arts Center, and the Millworks. But I understand, or I think I understand today, that it might have been changed during COVID, which we never received notice of. So I would respectfully ask council to include the original 2014 amendment that included Third Street, Millworks, Harrisburg Midtown Arts Center, and other properties along Third Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the middle section that would like to offer public comment? Okay, seeing and hearing no one. Anyone to my left? Seeing and hearing no one. The time is 6:41 p.m. We stand adjourned from our work session. As everyone is aware, we have a legislative session scheduled immediately following our work session this evening. If you would indulge us for a few minutes while we review our meeting agenda through our legislative caucus, and then I will call the legislative session meeting to order. So I will call the meeting to order. Mr. Truesdale will lead the roll call. The invocation this evening will be led by Councilman Rodriguez, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilwoman Daniels. For communications this evening, we are joined by Chief Enterline, who will provide a Fire Bureau annual update. Then we will move to courtesy of the floor, followed by the approval of minutes for the legislative session that occurred on March 11th, 2025. Reports of committees. There are two reports that you will hear this evening. The first delivered by Chair Daniels on behalf of the Community and Economic Development Committee on the work session of March 24th, 2025. And the second delivered by Chair Rawls on behalf of the Parks, Recreation, and Enrichment Committee on the work session of March 24th, 2025. We have one ordinance for first reading, that's Bill 4 of 2025, which will move to the Community and Economic Development Committee. We do not have any ordinances for amendment or ordinances for final passage. We will then move to resolutions. The first resolution for consideration is Resolution 15 of 2025, which we will vote upon. Next, Resolution 16 of 2025, which we will vote upon. Resolution 17 of 2025 will move to the Public Safety Committee. Resolution 18 of 2025 will move to the Administration Committee. Resolution 19 of 2025 will move to the Budget and Finance Committee. And Resolution 20 of 2025 will move to the Public Safety Committee. Is there any old business for discussion, council members? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Any new business? Old business, Councilwoman Rawls, okay. Any new business? Okay, seeing and hearing none, then we will stand adjourned. Okay, the time is 6:44 p.m. I would like to call our legislative session to order. Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Daniels,
Here.
Ms. Davis,
Present.
Ms. Green,
Present.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Rawls,
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Present.
Ms. Bowers.
Present. The invocation this evening will be led by Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to set aside a moment of honest and respects for two great leaders in the community, Mr. Barry Bird, known him as Low Key Bird, or Carl Pye Singleton. If we can give these gentlemen just a moment of silence in honor of their memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilwoman Daniels.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Daniels. For communications this evening, we are joined by Chief Enterline, who will share an annual update on behalf of the Fire Bureau.
Good evening, Council, and happy spring. I promised Jared I'd keep it to 10 minutes. He said I could have 15, but I'll respect time and say 10. So I'd like to present the annual report of the Harrisburg Bureau of Fire to City Council for full transparency for not only council, but I think it's important for the public to see some of those behind the scenes things and those year-end statistics that may not become readily available anywhere else. So we can move right into the vacancies and deployments and injuries. And this is all year-end, 12/31/24, and I'll give you a little highlight of where we are just as of this month. So the complement of 12/21/24 was 93 firefighters. We had 7 vacancies. We had 7 fire recruits start the academy 2 weeks ago at HAC. So all those vacancies we have filled, and they will be out on the street mid-June of 2025. We currently have 3 active on military deployment, and as of 2 weeks from now, we will be down to 2 on active military. One of our folks is coming back, and will be back on the street. We have 2 work-related injuries that are long-term. They are still there, and the one personal injury that was there 12/31 just went back to work actually Monday. So, and those are important numbers as we look at our overtime and why sometimes that overtime number is a little inflated. But I will also give you some good news on the overtime and reimbursements as we look at the budget then. So in 2024, we had 6 retirements. Captain Byron Warner, Lieutenant Jeffrey Miller, Firefighter Cedric Yates, Firefighter Bill Russo, Firefighter Dan Milan, and Firefighter Will Turner. So those 6 gave 20-plus years to the citizens of our city. And as I said, we were able to replace all of them just this month. Moving on, we did have a few, in full disclosure, we had 3 resignations from the Fire Bureau. Firefighter Patrick Giberson left to become a police officer, which is kind of odd. I wish Commissioner Carter was here. Firefighter Nicholas Hurst resigned for some military-related issues. And firefighter Jonathan Felty left to pursue a career in another field. So we do, much like the police department, we do lose some folks on occasion, and unfortunately 2 of those were, they probably didn't want to go. The 2024 new recruits, I believe we talked about those. They are now on the street and fully functioning and doing a great job protecting Harrisburg and our surrounding communities. On the next slide, a little overview on grants and what we spent. We're working right now on the bid designs for the flooring, the $250,000 from Dauphin County Gaming. We were awarded $15,000 from the State Fire Commissioner, which was used to purchase new equipment for the new apparatus we had purchased that we received in 2024 and early 2025. The Norfolk Southern Safety Grant, we're in the process of working on some custom-themed thermometers for our high-rise, elderly folks living in the high-rises downtown where we see a lot of unattended cooking fires, and a lot of times those folks are asleep. So we're going to give them a timer. Being from Norfolk Southern, it's going to be designed like a train to give them that Norfolk Southern advertising, if you will, since they've given us the funding. 2024 CDBG funding. I won't go over the 2024 because we did talk about that in our budget presentation for the most part. Though I will say that most of those projects right now are under legal review and have been put out for pricing. We did submit a Assistance of Firefighters grant and got that in on time for firefighter physicals and cancer screening. In our 24-25, $15,000 from the State Fire Commissioner. That is in process and will be awarded that funding. That typically hits the bank here in a couple of months. And that, again, was for firefighter physical. So, again, giving back to those firefighters that give to us and making sure that we keep them healthy and physically able to do the job. In 2025, we're currently in process, and both of these are being reviewed right now, replacing all of our dry suits. So that's the cold water rescue gear that we use in the river during the cold season, and then also the purchase of a UTV, which we are in process. I just got the final quote for that in this morning's email. The 2024 budget analysis, I'll just make a couple of points on the budget. I am not going to go through this whole thing, so you can skip the whole way through that. But just in full transparency, I like that you guys are able to see every dollar we spend and where it's going and what we're spending it on. And I think that's an important thing for transparency. The one thing that isn't captured in this is some of the reimbursements that we receive. So we did spend $12.67 million running the Fire Bureau last year on a $13.39 million budget. So we were about $776,000 under budget. And that was actually, if you recall, we added $500,000 into the 2025 budget for the purchase of a new fire truck that went into a special fund, and that was kind of the underspend of that budget. So theoretically, we were underspent by about $200,000 of what we were allocated. A couple of points to make as far as overtime and Pennsylvania Task Force 1. I know that always becomes a contentious issue. We spend a lot of money on Pennsylvania Task Force 1 deployments, which is all reimbursed through the federal government. And I'm not sure that we really did a good job explaining to council how that money comes back. So just as an example, in 2024, some of the reimbursements we received back was about $7,000 for two very small deployments. We had a Lorton, Virginia, so our members of Pennsylvania Task Force 1 went to Lorton, Virginia on a large-scale exercise. That reimbursement coming back to the city was $33,673.96. And in February of 2024, we received our reimbursement from Hurricane Ian, which was $150,910.63. So again, that reimbursed the city for those expenses and that overtime that we spent for Pennsylvania Task Force 1. So if we recall, we had Hurricane Debbie and Hurricane Helene in 2024. Those invoices have been sent to the city of Philadelphia for reimbursement. Hurricane Debbie, the reimbursement for that will be $31,776.20. And the big one, which was Hurricane Helene, which we had a significant number of our members deployed, that reimbursement will be $290,077.79. So that just gives you an idea. It's a total of about $322,000 that will be reimbursed. The city's already expended that money, right? It was city taxpayer dollars that we expended. However, the federal government, through that deployment, reimburses us. And most likely, we will come back and ask for maybe a reallocation of some of those funds throughout the year. So you can look forward to that. That may help us offset some equipment costs and some things like that. So we're going to discuss that internally, what we'd like to do. Some department highlights. I always like to I like to end on good notes, and we'll start on a couple of somber notes. Unfortunately, we had two fire fatalities. Miss Brenda Cuff that lived on Berry Hill Street, she tragically died January 1st of 24, and Miss Shirley Smith, who died on North 15th Street back on September the 12th. Our response time continues to meet national standards. We've continued to improve and modernize our training plan, and that is due in part to the additional deputy chief of training that we hired 2 years ago, and that has really started to pay dividends as far as our training goes, making that even across the board for all 4 platoons, and then also the record keeping of that to make sure that we're meeting those record keeping criteria so that, as I talk a little bit later about ISO, how that affects our ISO rating, our Insurance Services Office rating, in our public protection classification that will directly benefit the taxpayers and business owners of the city. We did place 3 new fire apparatus in service. Tower 1 that is running from Station 2, Squad 8, which, as you'll recall, I believe back during the budget, we were talking about it was going back to Pierce. Deputy Chief Sadazan and the crew are going out the end of next week to do a final re-inspection on that to come back from the warranty repairs in Appleton, Wisconsin. And then Wagon 3, which is running from the Uptown at Station 1. We continue to collaborate with codes on building and housing issues, with illegal clubs, illegal boarding houses, securing power to the condemned buildings that they need to tear down. And then elevators have become an absolute thorn in our side throughout downtown Harrisburg, and so we continue to coordinate those repairs. I will note, and I didn't put them in this slide presentation because it just happened not that long ago, but I have one that we'll use maybe in a first quarter or first half update to you folks on a building that was condemned on Allison Hill that actually had a club operating in it that had plywood over the windows and doors. An absolute unbelievable issue that we were dealt with out there. You'd never know it from the street. We continue to put some emphasis on community engagement with smoke detector, carbon monoxide installations. We use some of that CDBG money to buy a significant slug of smoke alarms. Street fairs and block parties continue to be a big push for us, as well as station tours. There's actually a station tour tomorrow at 2 o'clock at Station 2. And then the National Night Out, fire prevention activities where we're going out with fire drills, fire extinguisher training for various groups, whether that's community groups or we do the state as well. So part of our state funding that we get, we also provide them with fire extinguisher training on an annual basis. Career day events to try and get some younger folks interested in becoming firefighters. And then the coordination and assistance with the execution of downtown parades and events. Unfortunately, this got dumped to us a couple of years ago when we did a good job of running a holiday parade, and we've been roped in ever since. So some of the in-house things that our folks do that have a direct savings to the taxpayer are annual hose testing, ladder testing, the SCBA, so that's the breathing apparatus that we wear, and then maintenance and repairs to our small equipment such as saws and positive pressure fans and other gas-powered equipment. So this is all done in-house to save taxpayer dollars so that we're not sending this stuff out to get repaired, and we're also not bringing somebody in. A lot of departments will have somebody come in and actually do that hose testing and ladder testing for them. 2024 was an extremely busy year for reasons unknown for multiple dignitary visits to Harrisburg. We did get to meet and work closely with Secret Service and law enforcement. We had President Trump, Vice President Harris, Vice President Vance, and First Lady Biden. And so that was a multitude of days work, and that work typically begins about a week prior to that visit. And then there's all kinds of planning from not only the emergency services side, but we also look at from the emergency management side of things. And just as an aside, when President Trump came to the Farm Show complex, it was the first time in my near 30 years here where we activated a mass casualty incident where we had about 140 people that were treated on scene. We transported 6 people to the hospital, and we had 1 person that was in cardiac arrest. It was an absolute horrendous day. The troops did an amazing job, taking care of of all those visitors that were having medical emergencies. So, our job oftentimes, we're the Bureau of Fire, but there's a lot of other things that we do aside from that. So medical is one of them, and these big events are taxing to us, but it's also part of our job, and our troops do an amazing job at that. We continue to support Pennsylvania Task Force 1. As I just talked about, we were deployed in support of Tropical Storm Debbie, Tropical Cyclone Francine, Hurricane Debbie. We had that Lorton, Virginia Task Force exercise. and a joint task force exercise in Lancaster that was Pennsylvania Task Force 1 as well as South Central Task Force, both of which were a critical part of. We've been working with Fish and Boat Commission, and there's an MOU currently. Council approved the administration to work with Fish and Boat and PennDOT on some permanent marking solutions for the Dock Street Dam, which we continue to work on. And from an emergency management side of things, again, this is that arm of the Bureau that you typically don't see. So that continual monitoring of the river and weather events that could impact the city. So through that whole ice event that we had for 6, 7, 8 weeks where we had ice on the river every day, we're monitoring that, and about twice a week we're driving Front Street, taking photos and documenting the ice so that we can build a better portfolio of what the ice looks like prior to ice jams and flooding and events like that, and being able to better predict and protect our residents that are in those flood-prone areas such as northern part of the city and then obviously Shipoke. We're with Dauphin County a lot. And this is about my last slide. Dauphin County a lot. Where am I time-wise anyway? I'm good? It's not 40 minutes. I used to like you, Councilman. And then we continue to monitor and evaluate homeland security threats, so we get weekly updates as far as those things go. And I think the big thing that was from an emergency management, that was a tentacle that the residents got to see was that coordinated activities when the tornado touched down out in the Bellevue Park area earlier this year. And the last thing I want to touch on is just the call volume, so you can blast through some of that stuff, and I'll tell you when to stop. There you go, right here. So, and I'm not going to go through all these statistics. I just wanted to show these, and then we'll stop the last one. Our typical daily staffing on all of our apparatus is between 3 and 5 personnel, and that just depends on how many folks are off. When I first came here, we were running some apparatus with 2, which is a safety issue for not only the firefighters, but for the residents, because you just can't do anything with a crew of 2 folks. So we'll go to the very last one. It is the statistics for the city. So Ladder 2, Squad 8, Wagon 4, Wagon 3, and here we go. Total number of calls we did in 2024 was 3,516. Of those, 281 incidents were of some kind of a fire-related incident. And the one that's really disturbing us, so we continue, this has been a habitual issue for us, and we've tried multiple things, as well as invoices for fines monthly, is that false alarm and false call. That's 26% of our call volume. And we have sent letters, we have done a lot of other things, and these fines, they just keep paying them, they don't care. We are going to implement, I just was on a conference call this afternoon. We started a new records management system February 1st, and we're going to integrate with that, and council, I believe, will have to approve it. But it is a self-reporting from the industry, so folks that are doing repairs on alarm systems and things like that will have to report to us the deficiencies. And a lot of other municipalities are using that. That may help us whittle this number down a little bit, and that's what we're hopeful for. We go to the next slide. So when we look at Harrisburg City incidents, so that 3,500 number was our total incidents. 2,994 of them were here in the city. That's a little bit of a breakdown. Average response time ticked up a little bit at 4 minutes and 56 seconds. And we want to be 5 minutes or less. So we're right on that precipice of that 5 minutes. So we're working on some solutions for that, and may have some bigger things to talk about later in 2025. And then the last I want to talk about is our mutual aid. And I'm not complaining about mutual aid because it is a good thing for us. It's a good thing for those residents outside of the city. But our mutual aid last year was 522, which I'll point out is more than a majority of the volunteer fire companies' total annual call volume outside of Harrisburg. And our biggest users of mutual aid, interestingly, is Sweaterra Township, followed by Steelton. So there's, I know Sweater is trying to work on some things, but they just have, they've tried every kind of staffing issue that they can come up with, part-time, incentive programs and things like that. And the city of Harrisburg continues to provide a lot of mutual aid to them, as well as, excuse me, as well as the borough of Steelton. So there may be more to speak about on that in the coming months. I just don't want to talk about it publicly at this point. And I think that is all to present publicly. And then obviously this can be placed on the city website. Everything that needed to be redacted was redacted. Everything else is a public document that is readily available for full transparency of the operation of the Fire Bureau. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you so much. You know, I always enjoy your thorough presentations. I don't have any questions, but I will open the floor to my colleagues who may have some. I will begin with our Public Safety Chair, Councilman Jones.
Thank you, President Bowers. Same sentiments. Great job. No questions.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez, any questions?
Thank you, Madam President. Chief, always a pleasure. Very thorough as usual. No questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rawls, any questions?
Good evening, Chief Enderline. No questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Vice President Green, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions for you. Just thank you for the presentation and thank you for all that you and your department does.
Thank you. Councilwoman Davis. Sorry. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Councilwoman Bowers. And thank you, Chief Ederline, for your presentation. I know you tried to keep it within 10 minutes, but I can tell you enjoy your job.
I could talk to you for the next hour, but I don't think the public would enjoy that.
I believe that. So I was going to ask a couple questions here. When I see fire trucks out, you know, going to a fire or someone calls you, I don't always see an ambulance there. Is it typical for an ambulance to go alongside on every call with you?
Excellent question. So the generic answer is no. And the ambulance service is provided by Community Life Team EMS through UPMC. And they are overtaxed as it is. So back in the day, if we went in the Wayback Machine 25, 30 years ago, we did get ambulances on a lot of the calls we go to. But the only time they come out now is obviously it's a medical emergency, a vehicle accident with injuries, and then anything that's reported as a building fire. So if it's a reported building fire, they're coming, and that's for the protection if there were any victims of the fire, but also, more importantly, anything that were to happen while we were on scene of that fire. But all the other mundane, gas leaks and things like that, they're not coming out with. It's just because there's not enough ambulances to go around.
Okay, as you was giving your presentation, I just thought of a couple of questions. My mind was wondering if the fire men and women, if there are any women there, are they prepared to deal with, say, drug overdoses? I know a lot of times the fires could be started, as you mentioned, by cooking, and you are performing life-saving skills with CPR and different things like that. But how about maybe...
Yeah, we do respond on those. That comes in as an AED call, so we do respond on those. However, in Harrisburg, we have opted that the police department carries Narcan. We opted out of that about 10 years ago, and that was just a decision based upon where we were 10 years ago with staffing. We've just maintained that. It's worked very well, where the police give the Narcan and then our guys, which the majority, 90% of currently are EMTs. So, and that's a requirement of the job, and it's been a requirement of the job since the year 2000. So our guys are then able to do the medical end of things while the police are given Narcan. And it's worked out a lot nicer that way.
Okay, thank you for the clarification on that. And also, are there any new developments in terms of training, any AI, new technologies, or...
I think we're treading very cautiously on use of AI. Now, from a report writing standpoint, it will become quite prevalent. But as far as AI, The fire service is treading cautiously on its use.
Okay.
But I think it's there, right? And, 30 years ago, we were still riding the tailboards of fire trucks, and we never thought we'd lose that, and we did. So, as things come along, we need to evaluate them and see what fits best with the service that we provide. So there's definitely place for it, just where does that fit for us?
Okay. I just thought some of those questions would be good for you to answer for the public. So thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation again.
Absolutely, you're quite welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman Davis. Councilwoman Daniels, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Thank you
All right.
again for being here, Chief.
Thank you,
Inouye.
appreciate it.
We will move forward with our meeting agenda. Next, we have courtesy of the floor. Same housekeeping notes. If you are interested in offering any public comment, please state your name and your address for the meeting record. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your address, please share the vicinity in which you live within the city. You will have 4 minutes to share your comments. Mr. Truesdale will serve as our timekeeper. I'll begin to my right. Is there anyone that would like to offer public comment? Seeing and hearing no one. Anyone in the middle section? Okay, seeing and hearing no one. Anyone to my left? Seeing and hearing no one, we will move forward with the meeting agenda. Next, we have the approval of minutes for the legislative session of March 11th, 2025. Council members, are there any revisions to those meeting minutes? Okay, seeing and hearing none, the minutes stand approved. Next, we have reports of committee. There are 2 committee reports you will hear this evening. The first will be delivered by Chair Daniels on behalf of the Community and Economic Development Committee on the work session of March 24th, 2025.
Thank you. The Community and Economic Development Committee met earlier today, March 24, 2025, to discuss Resolution 16-2025, which involves the construction of 32 individual tiny homes and a 2,400 square foot community center for unhoused veterans. As of today, the plan has received all of the zoning approvals necessary. There were 2 issues that were addressed, mainly whether the proposal for addressing headlight pollution was sufficient, and both the party and the city seem to be in agreement that that having an opaque feature versus a landscape feature would have very similar outcomes. And a resolution surrounding ADA requirements, which since the facilities have to meet them anyways, was not really a material issue. And that's pretty much it. I would recommend that we approve this resolution. And that concludes my report for this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Daniels. The next committee report you will hear will be delivered by Chair Rawls on behalf of the Parks, Recreation, and Enrichment Committee on the work session of March 24th, 2025.
Thank you, President Bowers. Good evening again, everybody. On March 24th, 2025, the Parks, Recreation, and Enrichment Committee met to discuss Resolution 15 of 2025, a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. Community Conservation Partnership Program notarized trail grant program in conjunction with the Capital Area Greenbelt Association for up to $150,000 for funds to relocate a portion of the Capital Greenbelt in South Harrisburg. Director David Baker and Mr. Douglas Hill, who is president of CAGA, were both present to speak about Resolution 15. Mr. Douglas explained the portion of the Greenbelt that would be moved was private property and now needs to be moved due to 2 affordable housing projects being built on the property, which are Tunnels to Towers and Eden Village. An engineering feasible study has been done and approved. The $150,000 to be submitted after approval will pay for this resolution and for the relocation of the Greenbelt. There were questions asked from council such as, do you have to get business buy-in? Will there be new bike trails along Sycamore Street? Does this relocation affect the school in any way? And what will your plan be for community outreach? Mr. Douglas answered those questions by letting council know that they do have to get business buy-in as well as the community buy-in, and some plans for outreach were to do community meetings and also contact members who have a direct investment or interest in the trail being moved. Also, Mr. Douglas made us aware that there has been a letter of support, anticipated letter of support from the Shipoke neighborhood. I recommend my fellow council members vote yes on Resolution 15 of 2025, and that concludes the business of the Parks, Recreation, and Enrichment Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Rawls. We have one ordinance for first reading. That's Bill 4 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Bill 4, 2025, an ordinance amending the City of Harrisburg's official zoning map to change the parcel zoning designations of 320 Riley Street, 1511 North 3rd Street, and 329 Harris Street, formerly 1530 North 4th Street, from the industrial zone to the commercial neighborhood zone pursuant to Chapter 7-303 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Harrisburg.
Thank you. Bill 4 of 2025 will move to the Community and Economic Development Committee. We do not have any ordinances for amendment or ordinances for final passage. We now move to resolutions. The first resolution for consideration is Resolution 15 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 15, 2025, a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Community Conservation Partnership Program, Non-Motorized Trail Grant Program, in conjunction with the Capital Area Greenbelt Association, for up to $150,000 for funds to relocate a portion of the Capital Area Greenbelt in South Harrisburg.
Thank you. Council members, are there any final questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 15 of 2025? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yay.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Resolution 15, 2025 passes by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 16 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 16, 2025, a resolution approving the preliminary/final land development plan for 1103 South Front Street, submitted by Eden Villages of Harrisburg to construct a transitional housing development for homeless individuals featuring 32 individual tiny homes, a 2,400 square foot community center offering services for residents and associated site and access improvements.
Thank you. Council members, are there any final questions, comments, or concerns related to Resolution 16 of 2025?
Yes, thank you. I am in favor of this program. I just was concerned that some of the homeless, unhoused, some of our unhoused population might not have $300 to move in, so I was concerned that, you know, they would be left out on the street. I know there's a lot of them who have been out there day in, day out in the winter through the months of the snow, the ice, the rain, and
Bless you.
to think that, you know, this facility is going to be built and then some of them may not be able to get in or qualify because they don't have $300 is just concerning to me. And that's my only concern, but I overall think it's a very good project and it will work well with the other homeless initiatives in the city. So thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman Davis. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Truesdale, could you please call the vote?
Ms. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yay.
Ms. Rawls,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes.
Resolution 16, 2025 passes by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Resolution 17 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 17, 2025, a resolution approving the sale of the Fire Bureau's Seagrave pumper, VIN number 1F9EK28T2VCST2067 to High Spire Bureau.
Thank you. Resolution 17 of 2025 will move to the Public Safety Committee.
Yeah.
Resolution 18 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 18, 2025, a resolution appointing Ms. Cheyenne Johnson to serve on the Environmental Advisory Council.
Thank you. Resolution 18 of 2025 will move to the Administration Committee. Resolution 19 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 19, 2025, a resolution authorizing the City of Harrisburg to negotiate and enter into a professional services agreement with Conrad Siegel Incorporated to continue to provide actuarial services consisting of other post-employment benefits, evaluations as required by the Government Accounting Standard Board Statement Number 75.
Thank you. Resolution 19 of 2025 will move to the Budget and Finance Committee. Our final resolution for consideration is Resolution 20 of 2025. Mr. Truesdale, could you please read it into the record?
Resolution 20, 2025, a resolution authorizing and approving the submission of a petition to the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board for an exemption of a specific downtown area of the City of Harrisburg from the board's regulations regarding amplified music being heard off the licensed premises in favor of enforcing the city's adopted noise control and abatement ordinance.
Thank you. Resolution 20 of 2025 will move to the Public Safety Committee. Old business, Councilwoman Rawls.
Yes, I just wanted to remind anyone interested in applying for the 2 youth commission positions, junior and senior advisor. Tomorrow's the last day. It closes, so please apply. It's a great chance for you to become a mentor and to help our youth understand their role and their civic duty here in the city. So it closes tomorrow. Can't wait to see all the people who apply. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other old business for discussion? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Any new business? Okay, seeing and hearing none. The time is 7:23 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.